Um, well, anyway, welcome to the MMA show. This is episode 21 with Condition Nutrition, Peter Miller. And obviously, that is not an Aussie accent, but you are based in Australia.
Yeah.
It's a friendly accent to me, which is nice. Um, welcome anyway. But thank you for reaching out because it is educational. I'm gonna know nothing, so I'm gonna let you talk for most of it
Okay.
because you are the man for this. Basically, would you be able to tell what you do as a starting point?
Um, so I am a sports nutritionist. So I've got a degree in sports science. I've got a master's degree in sports nutrition. So I started off condition nutrition around 2015, 16. Thought, once I finish my degree, that's it. Gonna take over the world, start off my own consultancy business, and didn't really happen like that. I set up like an Instagram page, and I was doing like fitness related advice, tips, and stuff like that. And then I moved to Australia. I still started as like a general hobby, working with people online, and then I got a couple of guys just messaging me, wanting to wake up for the fight, and then went from working from 2 people, and it's a spiraling effect. So now I've got guys across the world fighting in Muay Thai, world champions in Muay Thai, got guys in the UFC, boxing, and so my job is to get them down to the weight for the fight and all the little bits in between. And a lot of the time they want to continue out of fight camp and just make sure they're fueled during that time period, and they stay at a decent weight. And it's an exciting area to be in because it's an ever growing area of research now. So it's a good space to be in.
I'm assuming there's not a one rule fits all with this sort of thing. It's completely client dependent.
Oh yeah, so it all depends on obviously like your body weight, and when you're your post weigh and refuel, for example, it's going to be different recommendations for different guys. The heavier the guy, the more carbohydrates they have, and someone who's lighter. It's just so it is an individual approach, but the principles stay that there's the specific principles which stay the same in that time period. But I like the way you got to look at it is you break the whole fight camp nutrition into like 4 separate parts. So you go, say a guy gets a phone call, it's like 8 weeks out. So phase 1 is say 8 weeks out to 1 week out to fight week, and then stage 2 is fight week, stage 3 is post weigh-in, stage 4 is fight day, and then you could say stage 5 as well, which is like the post fight and what you do after that. When you break it up into them stages, it's easier for people to understand the processes behind it.
Yeah. And what's the heaviest kind of weight you would suggest that people do to cut? So if you hear horror stories of people, 200 pounds cutting to 145 and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously that's crazy to me. You can't, especially if it's, you can't all do that water weight. It's got to be a lot of, you got to break down your muscle and all that good stuff. But what's the kind of maximum amount you would say to cut that is healthy before it becomes sort of a detriment to your health?
You've got to look at it in. So when someone signs up to me, I always look to get some baseline assessment. So the most important thing to probably get is like a body fat assessment. Mm-hmm. So because then you can gauge whether they can actually make that weight. So for example, say a guy's fighting at lightweight and he's walking around at 82 kilos, but he's got 10% body fat. It's like, well, where are we gonna pull that weight from? You're gonna end up tapping into your lean body mass, and the water cut's gonna be a bit difficult in comparison to these 18, 19% body fat. Like, okay, we've got room to move around. Mm-hmm. So that's what I try and get first is like some baseline assessment. So ideally a body fat scan. So that's either through what's called a DEXA scan. So it's a bit like an MRI machine. So you basically lie flat on the machine, it scans your body and checks for your bone health and your body fat. That's typically the most accurate measurements of doing it. But in a lot of cases, it is quite expensive to get. But there's also other methods like skin fold calipers, but It's whether you get someone who's trained in doing that. So ideally the DEXA, but you can get it through other means. But once we've got that, right, we're at this point. I know I want you around X amount for fight week. Say, for example, use an example again, guy's fighting at lightweight and he's walking around at 81 kilos. So I know if I can get you around, we've got a good period of time, like 8 to 10 weeks, I know I can get you around, 75, 76, gradually drop the weight. And then the remaining weight, we can do a few acute weight loss strategies, which is, cutting carbs out, reducing the fiber, reducing the salt, so water load, and then at the end, a little bit of a water cut, and then we can get that weight off through that. So it's sort of working backwards. So it's like, right, we're at this point, I want you to be, around 6 to 10% out is like the ballpark figure. You don't really want to be over 10% out when it comes to fight week. Yeah. So if we're around the 6 to 10% mark, then we're good. We're good to go.
If you're not, is that where it becomes a danger? So
yeah, that's when
people would get hit, and
and as well, like a big thing with fighters is they need to lose the weight. So straight away they're like, okay, I cut the carbs out completely. So all through fight camp, they're not eating any carbohydrates. And when it comes to that fight week, there's nothing to pull, because, for example, 1 gram of carbs holds 3 grams of water. So say you're eating a lot of carbohydrates throughout fight camp. As soon as you remove that carbohydrates, you're taking away that water weight that's associated with the carbohydrates. So say you eat 500 grams of carbs a day, and then you times that by 3, so you can potentially lose 1.5 to 2 kilos of weight just by cutting carbs out. And obviously the bigger the guy, the more bigger the carb stores in the body and stuff like that. So when you're, so like as I said, like a lot of fighters cut the carbs out straight away. They cut the water out. So when it comes to that fight week, like, shit, I've got 6 kilos to lose here. Like, how am I going to get that weight off? And that's when you're tapping into like the dehydration methods, and that's when it starts getting a little bit sketchy when you're going into them realms. Like, safely, you can lose around like 4 or 5% of your body weight through a water cut. Yeah, which is pretty safe. So, but anything after that, that's when it starts getting into dangerous territory, because you've got to look at this is me waffling on a little bit. No, please. You've got to look at the top body water in like 3 different compartments. So there's water in the plasma, which is like in the blood, and then there's water in the extracellular fluid, so it's fluid around the cells, and then water in the intracellular fluid. So when you dehydrate, you firstly take water from the plasma, and then the more dehydrated you get, you start tapping into the extracellular fluid, and then the more dehydrated you get, you start tapping into the intracellular fluid, which is, your vital organs like your brain, your kidneys, your liver. Yeah. So when the guys do really big water cuts, they're, taking water from them vital organs. And when the research is unknown whether, regardless of what rehydration strategy you have, has that water, because when you drink water, it doesn't just suddenly just go boom straight in, rehydrates again. It takes quite a lot of time to get back into them cells. So they could have lost, for example, 10% of the body weight through dehydration, drink all the recommended fluid strategies, but then they could go into the fight still dehydrated in the vital organs. And when you're dehydrated in the brain, you're more prone to concussion and stuff like that. So it's quite dangerous, and doing that repeatedly over time as well has there's not a lot of research out there, but it's bound to take a negative effect on your health.
Yeah. So would you say that when they took away IVs, because that was a massive thing to rehydrate, wasn't it? You had to take. If people took IVs, and within a day they said they were fine anyway. But obviously nowadays, you see, as soon as they took away IVs, a lot of people moved to a more natural weight class. Yeah. In combat sports in general.
Well, and as I said, like there's the research into getting that fluid back into them cells. It's pretty unknown and the research that is around it is potentially up to 3 days. So you could be going into fights still dehydrated regardless of what you've actually drank. You could have drank all the right electrolytes, solutions, etc., and you could still be dehydrated. So that's like the good thing. Like there's people like what I'm doing now, and other people in the area, like they're promoting this good, safer practice of making weight. Like you don't have to do this if you get enough time and you follow the right plan and you do the right things. You don't have to go to them extremes. Like I've had guys where previously, before they worked with me, they did used to lose like the 5-6 kilos in the sauna and stuff like that, and then as soon as you follow a plan, you don't have to do that anymore. But it's just that education. But unfortunately, with combat sports, for example, like I always football, but I always have to say soccer here because it gets confused.
Football here.
So in football, like if you wanted to type in carbohydrate recommendations or recovery strategies, etc., on Google, there'd be loads of scientific, peer-reviewed research, like solid evidence, what recommendations for that sport. But if you type that in for MMA or boxing, there's pretty much fuck all out there. to put it kindly. So like, you know, I can understand why there's such a lack of like education for fighters, because there's the research is only just starting to come out now. Especially now, like the UFCPI are pushing, you know, a lot of research, and they're trying to like not abolish the date. Well, trying to like make the weight cutting safer, and there's good research in Liverpool John Moores Uni that do a lot of research on combat sports and stuff like that. So in 10 years' time, there's probably going to be heaps of research, and it's a lot more. I think these kind of dangerous weight cutting practices might not be as what's the word for? Might not happen as often.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. It's honestly, it's eye opening that it takes that much, and you do offer a free plan, don't you, on your website as well?
Yeah, so I offer like a fight week guide, just a general tips what we were talking about. So like,
see, that's quality to me. Not many people do that
and stuff like that, because like, you know, just little tips, and you know, it's better. I'd rather give someone that advice than them doing it, you know, a dangerous way. There's been like over here in Perth, there was a girl. She was a Muay Thai fighter. She's only like 18, and she died through dehydration. I think the coach told her to run in a sweatsuit, and she died. So, you know, it's not something to be taken, you know, something to be taken seriously. And you know, if I can give some advice out to people who are, you know, especially like with young fighters as well. That's at times where they are seeking advice and they can't necessarily afford a nutritionist, and that's when they start looking at the Google forums, and you know, how did you do that? Oh yeah, well I did this. And I've been fighting for 10 years. Like, oh, okay, you might have made the weight every time, but did you do it the right way? Probably not. So but as I said, there's the research is more and more research coming out. So in a few years' time, hopefully there's not going to be as many sort of instances like the unfortunate deaths of fighters.
Yeah, that's horrible, isn't it? There's on your website as well, I see that you do a lot of workshops, seminars, you go around touring.
I haven't that much recently, just because of COVID and stuff like that.
And isn't Australia pretty tight to get in and out of right now?
Oh yeah, it's a bit. To be fair, we've been all right in Perth, but we've been locked away from the rest of Australia for like 2 years, because we're classed as like the most. I think we're like the most isolated city in the world. I think we're like 3.5 hours away from a major city, so like we've just been like locked away. So it's been, in terms of like the Perth fight scene, it hasn't been that good because there's a lot of events haven't happened, or you know, events been cancelled. But I suppose that's a good thing about working online, that you get to like work with people across the world. So there's still like luckily been a lot more events popping up, and especially now, like this year, there's heaps of heaps of events popping up, and yeah, so it's an exciting time at the moment.
Can you disclose any of your clients?
Yeah, I've got a guy fighting.
Just curious to see what kind of like standard on different platforms. I mean, not just like in one specific combat sport.
So I've got Cage Warriors champion Jordan Vucenic. I've got him.
One of my favorites. Yeah.
I've got a guy fighting on the weekend in his UFC debut, Jack Della.
Okay.
I've got Jake Hadley, who's in the UFC as well. I've got. I'm trying to think of people in know. Like I've got a guy who's fighting for the world title in Muay Thai, Nathan Benden. He's UK based fighter.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it ranges really from that sort of UFC level and works our way down like Cage Warriors. But I'm quite lucky really to work with like a variety of different sports, MMA, boxing, Muay Thai. So it's a good area to be in. But and it's exciting as well to see like one of the guys is the UFC debut this weekend, and he's a Perth local lad. So
yeah,
it's pretty exciting to see him on the world stage.
Is there a specific combat sports that's a lot easier to manage? Because obviously the weight classes in Thai boxing and boxing, there's a lot more weight classes. So I'm assuming a lot of people don't cut.
There's always there tends to be a bigger weight cut in MMA, just to the fact that there's not as many weight classes. But boxing doesn't seem to be. Boxing is probably the least. Is probably the sport which I have the fewest clients in.
Okay.
But boxing, they don't tend to cut as much weight. But yeah, with like Muay Thai and MMA, it's pretty similar. But yeah, as I said to you before, when like some guys who first signed up and they're what did you do to make weight beforehand? And like, I sat in the sauna and lost 5 kilos. It's like shit. And then like now like the night before weigh, it's like, are you sure I can eat? It's like, yeah, you can eat. Like I've never eaten before. Like the night before weigh, it's like, yeah, it's cool. You can eat, and like it's a sort of easing them, like letting them know that you can still eat and make the weight, which is it's good because like you're educating them, and like especially seeing like the improvements in the performance. Well, obviously like nutrition is a very small cog in the machine, but knowing that my work is giving in that elite level that 1 to 2% improvement can be the difference between winning and losing. So it's good to see like them improvements.
Yeah, how caught up are you in the world of MMA at the moment? Are you a diehard like me, or?
I try and watch it as like all the main events. It's just because, especially like the time difference here, it's a good. It's on at a decent time. It's on like around like midday.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad time to watch it, but it's just like I've got like so many events, especially like with guys who compete on the weekend. I'll be watching like some Muay Thai fights and then some boxing fights, some MMA. So it's like I'm constantly got like things to catch up on and fights to catch up on, and a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but like quite often I miss like the main fights because I'm on the weekend. I'm catching up on watching we fighters fights because the time difference, you don't get to watch them live and stuff like that. So so it's cool to watch like the three different sports and see like the differences, and just to see like the differences in the sport, and so it'd be a good. I'm looking forward to the weekend for sure. It'll be a very good card.
Very good card. I was going to say as well, do you work with any strength and conditioning coaches or anything like that to like kind of liaise up with
so I've got
performance?
Yeah, so like it tends to be more with like the guys, because as I mentioned before, I've got guys who are on like amateur level to UFC level. So it tends to be the guys who are in that higher sort of bracket where they've got, the strength and conditioning coach, and you do need to have that relationship with them and like liaise with them and see what they're doing. And so like, for example, like one of my fighters here, Jack, like we've got him into like the uni, and we've got him to do like UFC performance tests. Like they've got like the battery test you do, and like So working out like, what can be improved on, like what's good, and target the different areas. So it's definitely like my job is not just like, oh, here's your chicken stir fry, off you go. Like I always try and learn about like what other things I can do, and how food can influence the strength and conditioning side. And so as I said, it's exciting because like it's one of the areas where you're always learning. I'm always learning stuff like every week. Like I'm by no means like an expert in this area, so it's like the continuing development and learning. It's like it's pretty exciting.
And what's the game plan for 2022? If you don't mind me asking, how are you going to develop condition nutrition?
To be honest with you, I've been probably the next stage is potentially getting somebody on. It's just working out like the logistics side of it, and because it's an online, like the majority of my work is online. Like only because in Perth I haven't got the chance to go anywhere, so I only really work closely with like a couple of guys. So potentially getting someone on and trying to build the brand, and just seeing where it can go. But just that's probably the next stage. And trying to get some. I've been thinking about doing some like online content, like a course, potentially like a weight cutting course. Not in terms of like someone would be qualified in that, but just like giving educational stuff, and so it's all like a bulk content. But it's just I'm always brainstorming ideas. But
online content's definitely a good shout.
So something along their lines where like you can go into gyms and give like a bulk content, and the gym can access that, and then if they want to go further and get something a bit more personalized into it, like personalized, like they can contact me. But it's I think there's definitely a space for that, the sort of the educational side of it, especially like with gyms and stuff like that. But that's probably like maybe like the next space you'll be going into. But just improving my service all the time. Like I'm big on like self-improvement, so I'm always looking like how can I do better with my practice, like what can be improved, how can I do things better, it's just constant development.
Awesome. Can I get a prediction as well for this weekend from you? On Cyril and Ngannou first.
I don't know. I was been watching a few fights the other day, and I was just like, I can't call it.
It says 60-40 on my feed. I had 120 people eventually vote, and it's around 60% saying Ngannou still.
Yeah.
Just because if you get hit once.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's
even though I've gone Ghan.
Every time I make predictions, I'm always wrong. So like, I just try not to do it now.
Tell me about it. My video about Amanda and Juliana Pena went down well. Me basically slagging off Pena for half an hour.
Yeah, that's the thing. When
people come back to those videos and they start slagging you off.
Yeah, when you say it, that's it. Then you've made the call and you can't go back on it. So, it's well, to be honest, like as well, especially with the card this week, I've literally like my whole sort of week has been involved in like in Jack's sort of week and working around that. So I haven't really had I haven't really looked properly into the whole card. I've just been sort of immersed in getting him ready, getting on his nutrition on points and stuff. So
and he's on point, I imagine.
Yeah, he's one of them. He's pretty clued up with his nutrition. He just points him in the right direction. He does it, which is awesome, really. But yeah, he's on point, and he's ready to put on a show, and he's a top talent, like, so he's looking forward to seeing him show.
He's fighting Pete Rodriguez, isn't he?
Yeah, so his last opponent, Wally Alves, pulled out. So
yeah, it should have been a really good fight.
It's pretty cool. He's an awesome talent. He's only young, so he's got an exciting future ahead of him for sure.
Awesome. That makes all my questions answered then, sir. As I said, I don't have loads to go on because I'm an absolute novice in nutrition, but that is an eye opener for weight cutting anyway. Because as you said, like when I was doing Muay Thai, I was just in a sauna, just cutting, a couple kilos. I used to fight at flyweight, so it was like whatever 50 odd, and I'm 6 foot when I was 17. So yeah, I was the lanky dude fighting 5'5" guys. So didn't always go well because of probably a lot of it due to dehydration and getting clipped early on. So, but
as
it's
I said, like it's it's just part of that education side of things. When you do the right thing coming up to fight week, and you're eating your fueled, and you can safely lose up to 10% of your body weight if done correctly. Like
that's mad to me.
If you don't do it right and you do all the opposite strategies when it comes to fight week, it's going to be a difficult time. But hopefully, I said, like, there's more people like me in this area spreading the good word, and so hopefully in a few years' time, no one's going to be doing them crazy weight cuts.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, I say in a few years' time, it'll still probably happen. Like the Russian guys are pretty known for some crazy weight cuts. I've worked with a few Russian fighters, and so it needs to like trickle over there. But eventually it'll get there.
Yeah, the biggest one I can think of off the top of my head was Anthony Johnson when he used to make welterweight. Yeah. The dude was just like walking around at 230 pounds and used to hit 170. I'm like, I don't understand how.
Yeah,
I think he missed weight about 4 times as well, so that's probably how he didn't make it.
And the thing is as well, it just makes it, the more you do this yo-yo diet and put the weight back on, it just makes it harder because like the body just, like when you're restricting calories, your body goes into starvation mode. So it's like, well, I need to conserve as much energy. I don't want to, basically like when we were, cavemen, like we're trying to hold on to it, trying to conserve energy. So every time you're dieting, piling the weight back on again, doing that again, it just gets to the point where your body's just like, nah,
yeah,
like, we're not doing this now. And like, unfortunately, I've had instances only once, but like where guys have fought too much. Like I had like 3-4 fights in the space like 3 months, doing like a decent cut, and then the last time out was just like, nah, we're not. Body was just like, we're not doing it anymore, and it's unfortunate. Like my primary thing is the health and safety of a fighter, and I have to call it and to say, look, like I think we've just pushed it too far here, and it's a hard conversation to have. It's a hard call to have, but at the end of the day, one fight over your like your health and your life, it's you've got to be careful, because I said before, like you push the body too far, you can die pretty much.
Well, I think in the future, a lot of people will be fighting at natural weight classes a lot more. Like one championship, I think, do a hydration test before the fights.
Yeah, I've got a guy who's fighting in a few weeks in one championship as well. So yeah, he has to. Which the thing is with the hydration thing, it's not exactly. They haven't exactly abolished the weight cutting side of it, because basically you could just cut a little bit more weight, drink pure water, and then you'd pass the hydration test. So you're not actually hydrated. You can just drink, because basically the kidneys like filter like the electrolyte balance.
Okay.
Because you just drank the pure water, and then you piss, like it'll pass off as a hydration, it'll pass off as being hydrated. So there's flaws to that. I wouldn't say that was like the gold like standard, because there is ways to basically cheat that, unfortunately. But at the same time, combat sports is inherently dishonest anyway, because people are fighting weight classes like a lot less than the walk around rate. So it's that's the whole basis of combat sports is gaining an advantage, isn't it? So but it's good that they're actually trying to do something, like to stop it. But yeah, as I said, it's not
the answer.
It's not the answer now.
No, that's again. There you go. That's another thing for me. I thought it was the answer. To say it's not. Yeah, Perfect, though, dude. No, I really do appreciate you reaching out and coming on because it's awesome. I'd love to have you back for another chat as well.
No worries, anytime, mate.
Yeah. So, but yeah, where can people follow all your social media? Is it just Condition Nutrition on all social platforms?
Condition.nutrition. I'm mostly on my Instagram. You can contact me on email, conditionnutrition@yahoo.com, but I'm always on Instagram, so probably better message me on Instagram if you need any advice or want to contact me in regards to your fight coming up. Just drop me a message. I'm happy to talk to you.
Perfect. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on, dude.
No worries, mate. Yeah, pleasure.
Lovely.